Hello, gorgeous souls, and I'm so happy to have you back. Today's episode is going to be about simplicity. A simple episode about simplicity and how simplicity has shown up for me in my life, quite literally shown up for me, and how I've implemented it and how it's changed me. And I know that if you take the principles and the practices that I share in this episode with you and implement them into your own life, you will begin over time to see the dramatic change that I have personally seen in mine. So I'm really excited to be talking about this. And I want to start by giving you a little bit of a background as to why this is so important to me and how I ended up picking this topic for today. So, as many of you veteran listeners may recall, I took a long break, almost a 6-month break up until about a month ago. And during this break, I was doing a lot of growing, a lot more healing, just a lot of internal work. And I do a lot of work at my altar, okay? I have this beautiful altar that I've set up in my guest bedroom, and it's basically just my quiet space. It's where I go meet with spirit, with God, with universe, connect with my higher self, and really I can give the credit to my altar as a place where I have done a very large amount of my healing work, okay? So I spent a lot of time at my altar during this 6 months that I took off. And when I'm there, not always, but a lot of times I have this deck of cards that I will dig into or pick. So I have a deck of cards. Okay, so the deck of cards is called Sacred Destiny. My spiritual mentor gave this card deck to me. And basically it's a whole bunch of cards with things like a card could be, for example, happiness or freedom or flow or diligence or adventures or you name it, right? It could be like anything sort of, I don't really know, like just some kind of word that has a description underneath it with like an understanding of the word, and then it says a section of the sacred landscape wants you to know, fill in the blank, and it will tell you. So it's basically like a way for spirit to connect with spirit and get like messages from your angels, your guides, to know sort of where to move forward or what you're moving into. And I love this deck. This deck for me feels just like really enlightened. I don't know, I'm very connected to this deck. I've never drawn a card that didn't like completely speak to me, okay? So during the 6 months, I would do my meditations and my prayers at my altar and regularly would pick a card. Now, throughout these months, there was this one card that kept coming up. And when I say keeps coming up, like I'm telling you, I would pick it, I'd have it on my altar for maybe a couple weeks and, light a candle for it and everything, and then put it back in the deck and then be like, okay, now what's my next card? I'm ready for the next thing. And it would be this card again. And this happened, I'm not even exaggerating, at least 6 times. At least 6 times. I never counted, but that's sort of what I feel like. And so the card that I kept drawing was simplicity. So when you draw out of this big deck of cards and you keep getting the same one over and over, you start to pay attention, right? So I started to really implement what this card was saying into my life and really say like, okay, how can I make my life more simple? And every time I read the description and what the card wanted me to know, I sort of got like a whole different message. Every time it was like as it related to where I was that day, which is also the beauty of cards, right? The interpretation speaks to you in however it needs to speak to you in that moment. And so I just was floored. Every time I picked it, I would get the chills and think, no way I picked this card again, And so Then I went on this walk. One of the days that I picked up this card, I went on this walk and around my neighborhoods, like I go this loop every time. And I come back and right in front of my house is a big white feather. And guess what is on the card, the Simplicity card? A big white feather. And it's just like, I'm telling you, this connection to this big white feather, this card, this message has been so potent for me for, like I said, now probably 7 months. And today, when actually I'm recording this episode on 11/11s, the 11/11 portal is today, which in my world is a pretty big deal. Lots of big energies coming through today. And I spent some time at my altar today. Actually haven't in a couple weeks, which is a little bit rare for me. So I took like a big chunk of my day and I sat down at my altar and I did some meditation. I did some prayer. I just did some really deep connecting, some breath work. And I decided to pick a card, which I hadn't done in a while either. Like I just hadn't picked up my card deck in a while. So I was really excited and I was like, okay, I'm going to pick a card. And I was like, today, God, like I want to know whichever one flies out. Today I want the flyer. I don't want to just pick one. I want it to just fly out when I'm shuffling, right? So I said very distinctly, I want the flyer. And I probably shuffled like 2 or 3 times and one just goes flying out, okay? And I'm like, whoa. And I got major chills. And I just, in my head, I had this intuitive feeling like this card is a big deal for you today. So like really dive into what this card says. So I flip over the card and it's Simplicity again. So this time and where I am today, like in my headspace today, I read it with a whole new set of eyes. And before I dive into this, I want to just tell you what it said, okay? So it says, the sacred landscape wants you to know, to find a sacred simplicity and have clarity in your life, do only what matters. Release everything else. Simplify your life. Scan all areas and clear both internal and external clutter. Rest, rejuvenate, and only participate in what is truly important to you. Relinquish everything else. Do not delay. Do it now. When your life is cluttered with objects, relationships, time constraints, and emotions, there's no room for spirit. There's too much static and too much stuff to connect you to your soul. The smallest amount of clutter clearing can make the biggest difference. So, yes, I've gotten this card multiple times over the last 7 months. However, I never really have had it hit me like it did today. So previously it was more like a guidance, like I want you to start decluttering, okay? Like I want you to start simplifying your life. So I really did. I have for months and months been doing everything I can to simplify. And the way I read the card today was like a massive confirmation, because I have noticed such a shift in my energy lately. I mean, I don't know that words will even do any justice to the feeling I have lately. My life has been so calm, and it feels like amazing. And what have I been doing? I have been decluttering physically. So just recently I cleaned out my whole pantry. My pantry and my closet were like the most noise in my house, right? That just always got the yuck. And this one desk area in my house where it's like under cabinets, just like a little throw everything in this spot. So in the last, less than a week, I have actually completely decluttered my closet. I've completely cleaned up that desk area, and I completely reorganized my pantry, okay? Whoosh! Like this act of decluttering and simplifying my life has just really made like really cleared my energetic field. I can't even explain to you. I mean, I know we're adults here. We've all had moments where we've done something like this and it feels great, but I want to remind you what that feels like and to tell you now, especially in the energetic space that the planet is in, the more we can declutter our lives, whether it's physically or relationship-wise or just overwhelming-wise, the better. Because we are really coming into this new energy. If you don't know anything about the new earth that we're moving into, like stripping ourselves away from this matrix society that we've all been conditioned and enslaved to for our entire lives, for centuries upon centuries, things are really turning brand new. Like we are living in biblical times, you guys. If you don't know this, let me know and I'll tell you about it. Or keep listening to my podcast because I'm going to be sharing more about this. So simplifying your life. Okay, so the decluttering, that's one thing. Another thing I've been doing, especially over the past 6 months and really since April, I did a podcast back in April called Shining Your Light. And after I did that, right before I did that, I had done this thing. It was like this very vulnerable post and I got a lot of pushback and people calling me crazy. And I went into this like dark night of the soul about it and then came out on the other side. And on the other side, I really was able to formulate a like phenomenal boundary system. And I started really understanding where I have the power to create boundaries in my life and the importance of not letting other people's opinions hold me back from my purpose and my power. And it also, in that season, created radical self-love for me. For those who don't know, I sat with ayahuasca back in February of this year, of 2022. And the biggest thing for me in that ceremony that was highlighted was lack of self-love. And I'm just so grateful for that cleansing and clearing and the integration that I've done since then to begin to learn day by day, step by step, how to push through my fears and things that are holding me back, which has also in turn empowered me and taught me more about how much I love myself. I have pushed through my fear of rejection and come out on the other side like with nothing short of pure love for myself. And that's really what life's all about, you guys, is coming to a place of truly loving yourself, stepping into your true light, your true self, and into your power. And that is where your bliss and your happiness will all stem from. Okay, so anyway, this is all coming back full circle for me to this simplicity card. I'm like, oh, I see how this keeps coming up for me, and I see how moving through all these ways of simplifying my life have really helped me. So with my boundary setting, I started learning how to put myself way first. Now, I have said this for a long time, but I'm also a recovering people pleaser. Okay, so really learning not to go places and do things or say yes to things that are not a hell yes, right? So I started learning to say no. If it's something that I don't want to do and I feel like I'm just doing it for someone else, I've started to learn to say no. Because if it's not a hell yes in my whole system and in my body, then it's got to be a fuck no. Because I have to protect my energy. I have to protect this light that is churning and burning and coming out of me at all times, especially now, like more and more lately. And so this boundary setting process and this learning to say no and learning to value my time and keep my life simple has been amazing. When I do that, I have time to do the extra things that always get me behind and overwhelm me. When I learn to only say yes to things that fully light me up, then I have time to do everything else with grace and ease. I have time to grocery shop cook dinner, read books to my son, play with my son, walk with my son and my husband, and like do family activities and actually be present because I'm not committed to all these things for everybody else. It's made me a better planner. It's made me able to do things more ahead of time because I feel like I have such a good grasp on my schedule, right? Whereas before I was like a fly by night, let me wait till the last minute to tell you if I can come because everything's so chaotic in my head. I have no idea what's going to be going on. But now that I have simplified my life and taken like each day, instead of going into each day and thinking I have all these things to do, I'm like, okay, what's going to be one thing I can really knock off my list today that's going to make me feel successful? And what's one thing I can do to make me feel good inside? And what's one thing I can do to light me up, right? So another thing I've started to do is every single day, and I'm only on like day 15, I think, I started a new home workout program. And every morning I'm getting up. No, not always am I doing this first thing in the morning. Sometimes like other things come up or I just need to sleep and so I do it later. But every day for 15 days, I have done a workout. And it has truly changed me. Knocking it out in the morning and then just being done with it and feeling so good afterwards. I'm just like, hell yeah. And I feel strong. And it's like once I eat that frog, there's a book called like Eat the Frog or something. It's like doing that one thing you don't want to do first thing in the morning and just knocking it out. When I started doing that, it's like it just opened up all this space in my day for me to have the ability to do the things that are going to make me feel good and that I want to do and that need to be done, right? Without stress and overwhelm, because I've been super simplifying my life. And it's a real game changer. I don't know how else to say this. Like, I want everyone to go out and do, how can you simplify your life? Like, what can you do today? What can you do today where you can say no to someone or cut something off of your life that's like, you know what, I'm doing this, but I don't really like it. It doesn't fill me up. It's not a hell yes for me. How can I cut this out of my life? Right? Because we tend to take on and take on and take on, not just stuff for ourselves, but like we take on other people's energy all the time too. And it's exhausting, And a lot of us who are, have codependent tendencies, myself, my old self included, tend to sit around and like whenever someone needs them, they're always there to help them. And we think that like we're helping them and changing their lives, but we're really not, because they're still the same. They're not making any changes and they're still coming back to you for the same old shit. Are you really helping them? So it's like that, there's another lesson in boundaries for you. It's like we have been fed the lie that doing nice things for other people gives us purpose, and that's more important than doing nice things for ourselves. That is a lie. Is it nice to do nice things for other people? Yes, giving fills us up. When we do something for someone else, it fills up our soul. It feels nice. But when we're sacrificing ourselves in some capacity to do that for someone else, then we are only feeling depleted and ultimately starting to feel resentful. And then we start blaming them, and then that relationship is actually damaged because secretly you're starting to resent them, and you don't even, you didn't mean to, but like you are, and here you are, and now you're drained. And now you have friction in this relationship that, had you had boundaries initially, could still be very flourishing, right? So simplicity. How can we simplify our life? How can we take that to-do list and chop it down into like a third of what it is so that we can feel accomplished each day and be like, you know what, I didn't get to these other things. These other things can wait till tomorrow, because my life is important to me, and it's very crucial that I maintain some kind of balance and am able to just to divvy out what needs to be done in an attainable way, right? That feels good in my body. We need to do more of what feels good in our body, because we have a tendency to do the opposite. And so simplicity, it just feels good, right? Think of that white feather just floating down. Isn't it beautiful to think about a life where things just feel simple and not so overly complicated? So what are some steps you can take today to simplify your relationships, to simplify your surroundings, like maybe decluttering, to simplifying your life, like maybe committing to a workout process where you just get up first thing, push play and go. You don't have to make any decisions about what you're going to do about that. If you have any interest in that, what program I'm doing, let me know and I'll tell you. It's really amazing. What's one thing at a time? Like, how can you implement more of a baby step mentality to where I'm going to do this one thing at a time, one thing at a time. I'm going to cut my to-do list into a third of what it's supposed to be so that I don't feel so overwhelmed, right? Because we're human. We can't have these days where we just totally are on the 8 cups of coffee vibe and we're just doing everything and getting it done. I mean, we'll crash and burn quickly if we try to maintain that level of, what's the word? That level of energy, basically. We're not built for that. So simplicity, write it down, put it on a big piece of paper and just put it somewhere where you have the ability to walk by it or stare at it every day. How can you make your life simple? What can you do to simplify your day? And it will change you. It will change you in ways you didn't even know. In fact, I challenge you to take a piece of paper, write simplicity on it, put it right in front of wherever you're going to see it the most, and then write the date as to when you did it, and then put a note on your calendar 6 months from now and look at your life and be like, how different is my life from 6 months from then, from when I first did this? Maybe write in your journal, here's what's going on in my life, and I'm going to change this. I'm going to do this simplicity lifestyle. And in 6 months, heck, maybe 3 months, if that's what you want, but not something you're don't do just a week, do a long time. So you're you can look back and see that progress and you're oh, wow, that really changed me. Because I'm telling you, it changed me. I didn't even know it was changing me until today. I saw it and I was like, holy crap, I have literally been doing this. I have totally implemented this and didn't even know it because I kept, seeing it. The card kept coming up for me. So I would restructure, resimplify. And, I let time go by and I drew another card and here it was coming right back up and saying, look, because this is your answer. This is your answer. And then right when I saw that card, I said, oh God, I'm going to come record a podcast and talk about this because I really think that it's simple, pun intended. It's really simple. We're always looking for these big complicated answers, but if we just keep it simple, it makes it really simple. Simple. Okay, I'm going to stop. So anyway, cheers to simplicity, my friends, and let me know how this starts to work in your life. It's a beautiful process, and I can't wait to hear feedback. Have a beautiful day. Thank you for listening. I'll catch you on the next episode.